came to Tulsa, Oklahoma from Alabama. Being inundated with Black history, coming to Tulsa and finding out about the history of this church, it was astonishing because everything that I read about the race massacre of 1921, it was a complete devastation. 36, 35 square blocks of utter like a bomb scene, like a ticking time bomb, and it went off. And over 300 people killed, 600 businesses destroyed, bodies dumped in mass graves, first time airplanes used to terrorize Americans. And all this happened in 18 hours, right? In 18 hours, 1,256 people were made homeless in 18 hours. And so finding out that the basement of our church that I found out about doing a tour of the church. When I first get to any place, I try to do a tour to learn more about where I am. And one of my trustees gave me a tour of the church, and I always love looking at cornerstones. Cornerstones to me tell the history and story of a church. Before we had a website and you saw our origination date, our founders put everything on these cornerstones. And so I looked at the year and I said the basement was finished being built in 1919. And he was like, yeah. And I said, and it's still here today? I was like, yeah. I said, so it survived? It was here in 1919, here in 1921, and it's here today. He was like, yeah. I was like, do you know what this means? He was like, what? I said, we have something that survived, right? To them, it was like a fish in water. They always knew, but part of trauma is people who survived trauma, they really don't like talking about it because of the sheer terror that existed in Tulsa during the race massacre and the aftermath of the intimidation, where anybody who said anything about it was killed or told to leave town, and nobody was ever charged with a crime for any of this stuff, which is another atrocity. God led me to share the story, and seeing the current condition our church was in, God said, Robert, this is not something you limit to just your members. Show the world what happened here, and that God still was able to save a remnant and allow my church to be in 2021 what she was not in 1921. From sharing that story across the city, across the state, and across the country, God has truly moved in a mighty way. We have been blessed by people who are not even Christians to give to just this historic effort of what we call the grandmother of Greenwood, which is historic Vernon AME Church. Last year, this membership of 135 members, 85% of which are over the age of 65, we were able to raise externally from the church, not tithes and offerings, but just externally from the church. We were able to raise over $1 million for our capital campaign. $1 million in 12 months. So now our stained glass windows that are worth appraised at over $1 million are finally being restored. That's nothing but the grace and mercy of God. And so we are expecting to do even more this year. We are having a prayer wall that will be for racial healing erected on the site of our church, using this same space, right, of people who survived the race massacre. The survivors built our sanctuary. People sought refuge in our basement, and using this same space to now be a catalyst for true change. God has shown that God's church can still be what it ought to be and send angels to bless us as we seek to do his work.